Hello, everyone. I'm Robyn Grable, the founder of Talents Ascend and the Ascend Collective, and your host for Ascending Beyond Barriers. Welcome. Ascending Beyond Barriers is an inspiring podcast dedicated to showcasing the remarkable journeys of small business founders who have faced and overcome significant challenges on their path to success. Each episode delves into the personal stories of entrepreneurs from diverse backgrounds, highlighting their unique experiences, struggles, and triumphs. Today, we're going to meet a true advocate and powerhouse for women veterans, Kat Corchado, an Air Force veteran who has made it her mission to support fellow service women in their transition from military to civilian life. She is the voice behind Sisters in Service podcast, a platform dedicated to telling the stories of those connected to the military. As the founder of Small Space Pilates as well, she empowers midlife women to improve mobility, strength, and body awareness through safe and effective movement. With over 40 years in the fitness industry, her expertise spans personal training, Pilates, AIS, and cancer exercise training. Welcome, Kat. Thank you so much for being here. It's so great to meet you. Great to talk to you. So thank you for your service in the Air Force. Tell us, I always like to know what made you decide as a woman to go into the military, and why did you choose the Air Force?
How much time do we have?
Right? I know, and I get asked that same question. I'm like,
Well, I was born into the military. My dad was already in the Air Force when I was born.
Okay.
And I felt growing up in the military, so I was a military brat.
All right.
And I thought everybody did this. Kids got to go to different countries. We got to travel. I was happy with it. I thought it was amazing to do that.
Good.
Flash forward to 22, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Nothing. And I was a single parent. And I thought, I just said, let me try the military. I said, let me give myself some time. I'll do four years.
Okay.
We know how that ended up.
Right.
Just to give myself some time to be able to take care of my child, to, figure out what it was I really wanted to do in the military.
Okay.
Interesting story. I came in on delayed enlistment. So I signed the paperwork in November 1979. Wow. I went active duty to boot camp in March of 1980.
Okay.
And you know how you have to fill out all the paperwork and everything. And so I said, do you have any dependents? And of course I said, yes. So my TI pulls me in. He goes, how did you get in the military? And I said, y'all let me in.
The same question.
You guys let me in. I had nothing to do with that. But apparently January of that year, the Air Force had stopped, not saying they don't take single parents, but now you have to get a power of attorney and all this other stuff, whereas I didn't have to have that coming in. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because when I was in the Navy, I had my daughter in 1983. They we were in Hawaii then in 1985 to 88, and I had orders. I wanted to go on a ship. I wanted to serve on a ship with the Navy, and they said you can't have a dependent and go on a ship. Women weren't allowed to have dependents and serve on ships at that time. Obviously, things have changed, but
yes.
I'm not giving up, custody of my child.
I did not know that. That's interesting.
Anybody. Yeah. So, wow. Okay. So what happened? Did they had changed it by the time between November and March?
Apparently they had. I think January of 1980, they had made that rule effective. Wow. But when I came on active duty in March, I was, everything was a go, because I kept thinking, well, maybe they changed their mind. Wow. But I was able to get in, and I ended up doing 20 years.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, it was meant to be. Then it was meant to be.
It was.
Yeah.
More than 4.
Well, yeah. And I did the same thing. 9. I didn't really think about it when I went in the Navy. It's like, I didn't necessarily say I'm going to stay for just a certain period of time. And then just life happened. I met what was then my husband in the Navy, and we had our daughter, and we moved a couple of times. And then I was at the 9-year mark, and I was like, if I re-enlist again, I'm doing 13, I might as well do 20. So I made the decision to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really
So,
interesting in the fact that no one goes, I think very few people go in the military saying, I'm doing 20, I'm going to be a lifer.
right.
And for me, every time I thought about getting out, my son was going to a new school or I had a new assignment. And by the time you get to 15, you're just like,
Yeah,
I might as well stay.
exactly. Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Well, so you got out your transition. I've read a couple of
Mhm.
your posts. It's like this transition of being in the uniform and out of the uniform. How was
Mhm.
your transition?
Oh, it sucked.
Yes, it did.
It was bad because there was no mention of what the expectation was. So I feel as though when you're in that, I call it like you're straddling two worlds. You're
Yeah,
in the military world, you're in the civilian world, but you're not fully in either one of them.
right.
And as a female veteran, I got out and I did, I was just, no one asked me about my service, maybe because no one knew, but women didn't talk about it at that point.
Yeah.
And I remember we were in Boston when 9/11 happened.
Mm,
And my husband and I were going into a grocery store and they were selling these little flags that you could put on your car to show
mm,
support for, those people that were lost during 9/11. I'm
yeah.
assuming, I don't know. And the guy selling the flag said, "Do you want to buy a flag?" And I said, "No, thank you." And he goes, "Well, what have you done for your country?" And I
Wow.
said, "I did 20 years for my country." And it
Wow.
made me start thinking, and I asked my husband, who's also a veteran, I said, "Should we buy a flag?" He goes, "We have nothing to prove."
Yeah,
He goes, "What we did, it's not plastered on us anywhere, but we know what we did for our country."
absolutely.
And it started me thinking, I didn't feel like I was hiding on purpose, but I
Yeah.
thought, why am I being really quiet about my service?
Mm,
And why am I not talking about it more? And I really didn't do a whole lot about it at the time until we moved to North Carolina.
okay. So what changed? What do you think changed in removing that barrier of being able to talk about your service?
The people who didn't believe that I was a veteran,
Okay.
because I was told you don't look like a veteran,
Right.
I'll tell you this story. So there's a supermarket here in North Carolina where they have veteran parking.
Mm,
And I have pulled several times, I pulled into there, if it's open, I'm going to park there.
yep.
And I've been confronted several times,
Oh my God.
why are you driving your husband's car just because, he has the tag doesn't mean you can park there.
Yep.
I've had people threaten to call the police on me, the cops,
My
because I'm
God.
not supposed to park there. The funny thing about these stories is that both of those confrontations, neither one of these people had served in the military.
Wow.
And I find that very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know what their picture is of what a female veteran looks like, but apparently it's not me.
Yeah.
And, it became very apparent,
Yeah.
which is when I had started to become a part of, I was I won't say I was one of the founding members, but I was part of the first group to become part of Woven, the Women Veterans Network.
Nice.
And that made me even more involved with women veterans and hearing these stories of transition and how difficult it was. And I thought, okay, this is 17 years after I've been out and we're still having this problem. We're
Right.
still talking about this.
Yeah.
What's broken?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, I
And
was just even thinking when I got out in 88, it was horrible. I
Mhm.
didn't even tell people I was a veteran because the resume writer I
Mhm.
went to said nobody's going to understand and they're going to question why you were a female in the military. But to hear you say then, and 20 years later, it was still happening. And now it's
Absolutely.
still 25 years and it's really still happening. We
It's
went
still
to
happening.
the Kane Brown concert, thanks to Vet Tix, a couple weeks ago, and the guy sitting next to my husband, veteran, he had a
Mhm.
veteran hat on. He walked by us. My husband, we had our Veterans Ascend t-shirts on. He looked at
Mhm.
my husband and said, "Thank you for your service." And my husband was like,
Mhm.
"She's the veteran." He walked right past me, didn't say a
Yes.
word. I'm like, "Are you
Yes.
kidding me?"
It's
I was so
happened to
mad.
me and my husband. We've been in, mixed company, and my husband, bless his heart, will say, we are retired military. And automatically the questions go right to my husband, and he'll
Right.
go, she's the retiree. And they go, oh, thank you for your service, and turn around and leave. And I look at my husband like, what? Do I need a
I know.
shower? What's
Right.
he just walked away from me.
So how do we change that? How do we fix that? I mean, there is now 11% of the military is now female, which is a good change, but it's still not enough, I don't think. But I know you're making a difference with your podcast. So tell me about that.
Well, the podcast happened because of everything I was hearing.
Yeah.
And I think to answer your question first, the more women put it out there
Yeah.
on social media, in groups that they're in civilian sectors,
Sure.
that yes, I'm a military veteran. I'm not broken. Thank you very much.
Right.
And I think that more and more people are going to understand. Veterans understand it. But I think we have to educate the civilians. Like, a lot of civilians say, thank you for your service. And I want civilians to say, thank you for wearing the uniform.
That's a good one.
Because
Yeah.
that's a totally different feel.
Yes.
Does that make you feel
I
when
love
people
that.
say, thank you for wearing the uniform? Like, oh, okay, thank you for saying that.
I love that.
It makes me feel, when someone says that to me, that they understand the sacrifice.
Right.
But when they say thank you for your service, it's like, thank you for putting the cart away,
Right.
Thank you for opening
Exactly.
the door, thank you for wearing the uniform.
Love
So
that.
my podcast started because of that.
Okay.
I wanted to start, telling women veteran stories, giving them a platform to speak about, because everyone's transition is different.
It is.
They would say, oh, transition was hard. Okay, maybe yours was harder than mine, but to me, mine was hard.
Right.
Or, what they went through. And then, the military sexual trauma and all of this other stuff started coming up. And I wanted women to have a safe place to talk about all of these things. But then I realized, because I've been a military brat, a military spouse, active duty, and now veteran. And I thought, well, wait a minute. When one person is in the military, the entire family is in the military. So I opened up the podcast to military brats, military spouses, male and female.
Nice.
And to be able to tell the whole story.
Yeah.
And so it's been going strong for almost 4 years now.
Yay, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's awesome. Love that. What's been probably the most rewarding story that you've heard or been able to share?
I think, and this is several guests, but the things they had to overcome to get where they are today, and they're still okay. Yeah. Those that they were homeless, their kids were taken away from them, and they started a nonprofit to help homeless women veterans. And, someone that's been through military sexual trauma, and they're able to start a business, they're able to come out on the other side. Those stories of triumph in adversity. Yeah. Because a lot of people are like, oh, you poor thing and all this. I'm like, no, I'm not a poor thing. Don't poor thing me. Right. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But, they're the women who have the support of their family, have the support of friends, have the support of other female veterans. Yeah. That's what we need. We need a village. Yes. To help all of us. Yeah. And I think the more people that are in the village, the more help we're going to get.
Sure.
In today's climate, maybe not so much of what's happening, but I think that we need to come together. We don't need an organization for that to happen, but we do need people that are helping people with PTSD, people who are, having issues with military sexual trauma, and women who want to, or even men who want to start a business, and saying, I know someone that can help you with that. Yeah. So being able to string together all of these services, these things. I know a person that can help you. You know a person that can help me. Yeah. I know somebody who knows somebody that can, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And helping in that manner, I think
very much like we were in the military, because when you're in the uniform, that's what happens. If you need help with something, you've got your whole military family
Hmm.
around you that's going to pitch in and do something. If your husband's on deployment, like mine was, you've got people that you can rely on for childcare or just to make sure you're
Absolutely.
okay, that kind of thing. So we need
Hmm.
that as civilians. I definitely agree. I mean, I didn't, for the longest time, didn't talk about my MST. And it's hard to go through that. It's hard to talk about it. For a long time, I didn't get my VA benefits and my VA eligibility because I had
Hmm.
that thought of, I'm not broken. I've had things happen to me,
Hmm.
but I'm not broken. But then somebody's few years ago, and then certainly with the help of Neela and her husband Bruce, I've got my VA rating now, which I'm very happy about. Um,
Nice.
but they said you raised your hand, you wore the uniform, you
Hmm.
deserve those benefits, and I
Hmm.
truly believe that now. So I'm grateful for all those who've
Hmm.
pushed me to do that. But I don't think enough, especially women, we come
Hmm.
out and we don't talk about what's happened to us. We don't talk about
Hmm.
what we need. We just try to push through. We don't have to. We have this group,
Exactly.
yeah, together. So that's amazing. Wow. So, well, thank you for that, and count me in as a sister to help wherever I can. So
I
I'm there.
will. Thank you for
Yeah,
that. Thank you.
please, absolutely. All right, let's switch gears and talk about small space Pilates. Help me. I'm probably in the age bracket you want to help, so give me all the
Mhm.
advice I need.
Absolutely. So this came about. I had a client who lived in a fifth wheel. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And she really wanted to work out. And she goes, I don't know if
Okay.
I can work out here. And I go, sure, you can. And she kept saying, there are a lot of people around who have a small space but really want to work out. And I was
Okay.
like, oh, so I call it Small Space Pilates only because I've been in the fitness industry for over 40 years now.
Wow.
And, it's personal training, it's Pilates, and it's stretching. A
Yeah.
lot of women in our age group they either don't know what to do with weights or they feel they have these misconceptions about weight training.
Yes.
And so it was born out of that. I mean, I started Small
Wow.
Space Pilates in October. It'll be 3 years. And people kept saying,
Congratulations.
well, why are you doing it now? And I go, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? I don't want to leave this earth and say, I wish I had of. I wish I could have.
Right.
I want to be able to say, yep, I did that. Yep, I did that. I want to be able to do all of that. So I wanted to be able to speak to those women who are their kids are gone to college or maybe
Mhm.
their teenage years and kids don't need you as much anymore at that point.
Yeah.
And you look in the mirror and you go, who was that person
It's
staring
that
back at me? Because inside you still feel, some way. And then you look in the mirror and
30,
you go, and you start to do this. You're like,
right?
and so I thought those are the women I want to target. Those are
Yeah.
the women that say, I can't,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure I can. But what we forget as women, if you look back in your history, if you had a roadmap from the time you were born to now, and you could see all of those landmarks of times that were so incredibly difficult for you,
Yeah.
okay? And you circled them and you thought, wow, I didn't think I was going to get through that, but you did because you're here now.
Right.
If you can get through, we are so strong as women.
Yes.
But yet we go, oh, I'm not sure I can. We have these things we say to ourselves.
Yeah.
So Small Space Pilates is weight training, stretching, and Pilates, not
Nice.
all at the same time. It's virtual.
Wow.
And I tell women I have a strict no perfection policy in
Yes.
place.
Okay.
You can come in your comfy clothes. The commute is amazing. And, if you want to turn your camera off, fine, because I do film it for the people that are in my community.
Okay.
So if they can't make that class, they're able to, access
Awesome.
that video and be able to, do a class on their own if they want to.
Yeah.
But I felt it was I needed to make it as easy as possible. So I do 4 classes a week. So, everyone who's a part of the community University gets 12 classes for $47. I
Wow.
mean,
That's
so
amazing.
obviously I'm not in it for the money, but I want to be able to put that out there.
Yeah.
And so when people say, "Oh, you're a personal trainer," I go, "No, I'm a movement specialist." And so
Ooh,
when you hear personal trainer, you kind of go, "Oh, okay." But when you say movement specialist, people go, "What is that?"
yeah.
And the reason I changed it was because this is what I've been doing my entire career, is watching people move, their posture, how they sit, how they stand, how they move, whether it's with weights, without weights, whether it's Pilates, any of that. So I changed my title to movement specialist.
Nice. It says a lot about people, and I think about this too. I've got a health condition that makes me stiffen up. So I get up off the couch and I'm like, I feel like I'm 90 years old sometimes, and I get so mad because in my head I'm still only 20 something, and I don't want to.
Right?
I don't want to be old. I don't want to be stuck in,
Yeah.
so I get that, so you don't want to admit that you have those issues, but I love that. So what would you say is the biggest barrier you faced in starting that business? And what's been kind of your, big goal for the business?
So for about a year after I started the business, I didn't consider myself an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And so I tell people, me and the word entrepreneur finally got married. It's been a
Nice.
great marriage so far. But I think that's the biggest part of it. I just wanted to help people. And
Yeah.
that's what I still want to do, is help people. So
Yep.
when I think of entrepreneur, I think of, people making all this money and all this other stuff. And I just wanted, a small business where I could help women feel better and in their body, because I feel that everyone has the right to feel good in their body. But
Yep.
yet we are so used to feeling all the bad things in our body that we start to think of it as normal.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love is that I'm able to show modifications for whomever is in the class. So you
Mm.
have your fitness people that are hardcore, but you also have those people that are fighting rheumatoid arthritis or arthritis or
Exactly.
something else. So I'm able to show different types of movements for the same
Nice.
movement, so everyone feels included in the class.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I do love movement specialist. That's definitely a better way of saying it. So that's great. So
I
what?
think the hardest thing I'm sorry, to answer
Oh
your
yeah.
question, aside from the word entrepreneur, was learning all the things that go into a business.
Right. Yes.
And luckily, with my business coach, she's wonderful in the fact that she always says, ask until you're clear. So
Yeah.
I might ask one question 20 times, and on the 20th time I go,
Get it.
oh,
That's awesome.
and it needs to be clear. So, for
Mhm.
us in the military, we are, people that we need a system. We're systems people.
Yeah.
Show me the system, learn the system, move on.
Yeah. The
And
structure of
so
all that. Yeah.
yes, and she knows that about me. So she's able to put it to me in such a way, in bite-sized pieces, where I can chew that one, then I get the next bite, I can chew that one, kind of like where you're eating your meal. But it's worked for
Yeah.
me, and I'm loving every part of it. I just love what I do.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on both the
Oh.
podcast and Small Space Pilates. That's amazing. And really thinking about truly fitting a need and filling a need out there, which is amazing. So what's your next 5 years look like? What do you got on the horizon?
Well, I'm looking to do kind of like a what do you call it, when bringing a lot of women to a certain place where we can, do all of these things,
Love that.
that are health related, and continuing with the podcast. Of course, I've opened the podcast a little bit more at what I call Why Not Wellness. So I do a Why Not Wellness, which is like 15 minutes, answering a question or a problem that people have getting started with fitness, or something like that. So I always tell people that I'm not everyone's flavor, and that's okay, but my information is for everybody.
Yeah.
And so doing a retreat is one,
Nice.
speaking engagements is two, talking about fitness, because we don't move.
Right.
And if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a podcaster, all we do is sit,
It.
which is not a bad thing, but we've got to move our bodies.
Yeah.
So thinking of movement instead of exercise might be,
Yes.
5 minutes of dancing. Put your favorite dance list on it and dance. Maybe just getting and stretching, doing some
Yeah.
nice, gentle stretches. Maybe it's taking a 10-minute walk, walking outside, getting some air, getting some sunshine. Movement is what I want people to do. And when you move, you feel better. And so I have what I call an 11-minute, I'll call it the Keep It Moving 11-minute fitness challenge.
Okay.
Helping people to understand that you don't need 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes. Now, if you want to, great.
Right.
But you can do a great workout in 11 minutes.
Love it. Yes.
So there you go.
Love it. All right. Well, I think that's mic drop time. That's awesome. I will definitely be signing up for that 11 minutes. I've made a promise to myself this year that, and I've stuck to it. And I walk on my treadmill for 1 mile every day. It takes me 27 minutes. But if I could get down to 11, that would be great. But I agree with you. We don't move enough, and I need to move more. So I want to be 110. I want to live to be 110. That's my goal. So I need to move more. Kat, thank you so much.
110 and feisty, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Your own power.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Exactly.
Let's sign up for that. High five.
Yes. There you go. Well, thank you so much for all that you're doing. Thank you for wearing the uniform. I love that. I'm going to start saying that. So hopefully it'll catch on. That's amazing. So just thank you so much. It's so great to meet you. And thanks for being here today.
Thank you for the invite. And it's been a wonderful conversation. So thank you very much.